Hey, would you mind getting that file for me? It's just on the computer and it's just got the whole song. Would you mind grabbing it and we'll just send it right over? Yeah, it's named Final Song dash Final Version dash Really Final Version dash Swear to God Last Final Version, something like that. I think I don't remember which folder it's in, but it's in one of those, where all the songs seem to wind up. But okay, yeah, that's a bit of a nightmare. Maybe going forward, we should develop a system for this. Have everything all in one spot, easy to find, very put together, maybe? Maybe it'll help us get stuff done easier? I think that's a good idea. We should have a think on that.
Hello and welcome to the 145 World Podcast, where we are here to strengthen music careers and communities one song at a time. And now here's your host, Jacob Wing. Yay!
Hey everybody, and welcome to today's episode. Today we are going to have a very short episode, but very important. And if you were here watching this, you clicked on this because you want to learn about making sure going forward, 2024, any year forward from this, you're prepared for all the creative endeavors you're going to take on, making sure all your files, everything's in a very well thought out and planned place on your computer and all the backups, and you'll know how to get the files quickly and easily. So let's just go right on into it. Of course, this week we have another handout down below. It's free. It's our Patreon, and no emails, no signups, no nothing. It doesn't cost a dime. You can just download it. I'll have that up on screen so we can take a look at it as we're breaking it down. But the whole point of this is you're going to have a system that is going to be in place for whatever you're doing, no matter how many projects you're taking on. Even if you're working with other people, it's very straightforward, very intuitive, and after you start using it, I promise you'll never go back to doing it a different way, just because it's so easy to use. So breaking it down, we're going to start at the very beginning where you create your one file for all your music, and you can label that whatever it is. On the diagram here, we've called it My Music, just plain and simple, but you can call it whatever you want. Just music or whatever it may be. For me personally, I'll be using a lot of my examples in this one for my personal life and career. I have a studio that I run, so of course mine is just all under the heading of studio. But whatever it's going to make it easiest for you to know, just this is where anything music related goes. Label it that. So for this exact example, we'll be calling it My Music as just that base folder example. And from there, as you open that folder, the next things you should be seeing right away and right below on our handout there, it's going to show you the group names. So for this is going to be the name of any project that you work on. So if it's a band, you put the band name. If you're working with another person, just put their name on there. If you have multiple projects, if you're doing a solo act and a band, have one for you as a solo act under your name and one for the band, and you'll keep those separate. For anybody that's doing any audio work for anybody else, this works great where you're just putting your client names, and then you can also put all your music underneath this, because just following the exact same example, treat yourself as another artist in this. Just put your name as if you're doing solo act, or if you're working with groups or bands or whatever it may be, put that under that name. Really straightforward. So anything beyond that, there should be no other folders in this present, because everything will be included into the other parts of the folders as you break this down, as we're going down the waterfall of how we're filing all this stuff. So we've got our main folder with all our music. We open it up. We see any kind of project or group name right in front of us. From there, it's going to break down into 3 big folders. Now, of course, you can have any number of folders here depending on what you're doing, but the 3 big ones that I need you to have at all times that are going to really make your life a lot easier. First one is going to be audio references. And in this folder, you're just going to keep anything that you use as a reference for when you're mixing music or mastering music. You want this all in one central location so that you can go grab it and you know that when I'm mixing something, I love to hear the kick on this so that I can hear it on my own speakers and then kind of reference towards whoever I'm working on, work it towards that. Or, the guitars on this track are fantastic. Pull that track in. You always know where all your references are ready to go. So you're making sure you're making the best quality music and you have everything right at your fingertips. The next one we're going to talk about on this one is going to be business documents. And this is where you're going to keep anything that has to do, legal wise, or anything that you have to keep, any kind of numbers or tracking anything that's really important. All of that goes into here. If you are in a group or a band, I highly advise that you have a band agreement, and you should have copies of those signed inside here. It can save you so much headaches going forward. Just, who gets the band name if we split? What are the royalties? What are the splits on everything? All that kind of stuff should be included in your band agreement. But we'll go into that much later. We'll do our own episode on how to do a modern band agreement. But, all those kind of things you want in there so that you know where any kind of documentation is. And especially if you're doing any payouts, you have to have all your W-9s and all that kind of stuff. All the tax information goes in there if you filed on an LLC. And I'm not trying to overwhelm you or anything, but it's just nice to have a place where all your documentation can be centrally located. And of course, again, if you're working with separate groups or as separate groups or a solo artist, you can have different folders underneath this, but where all your business documents are going to be located, and that's what you want. The next one, of course, down is going to be logos, and this is a huge one. You don't think you'd need such a specific folder so early in this for that, but under your project, if you're in there, you should have a special place where you're putting logos. And because there's usually either, 5 or 6 different versions, different colors, you're doing different file formats, you have your PNGs, your JPEGs, whatever it may be that you're either pasting or copying or using or whatever it may be. You should have all of those in one location. Other things that you have, of course, that can go underneath this, besides just your logos, are anything that includes like banner work or any artwork that you're doing for, websites or Facebook or social media stuff, all included there. All that can go in here. If it's got your logo on it, it's going to be presented as such. Go under this so you know exactly where you can grab them. And I've had many times where you'll make some kind of banner, like a YouTube banner for your channel, and then that becomes useful for your Patreon, and then you can switch that over and use it in here. They really can be used, and it helps a consistency when you're trying to get your branding consistent. That really helps as well. The next one we're going to talk about here, of course, are two of the big ones, and they're separated for very, very big reasons. First is your music audio. And of course, this is where you're going. If you do any recordings, if you have anything like that, usually like whatever DAW you're using, make sure that your audio files are going here, because it'll keep all of your recordings, keeps all your bounce files, keeps all of your backups. Everything goes in there. And then you'll know for sure that everything is in one place when it comes to your audio. The next thing we want to talk about, of course, on the other side of this, is everything today usually has some sort of visual component to it. So you've got your music audio, and the next one, of course, is your music video. And this is the exact same thing, just everything that has to do with, taking any kind of pictures related to that song. That all goes underneath here. Just make sure anything that you do record or make a video with, make sure it goes right into this one. And of course, the reason that you keep it separate is if you're doing a dedicated music video, it starts to become a ton of files associated with that. So you want to have its own folder for that. Last and not least, we're going to have photos. This is, of course, anything to do with that particular song or that project. All those photos go in there just so you have those in one central location. Again, building any kind of website, anything you're doing in social media, just have a copy of those ready to go at all times. Have them in one central location. And that's pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, there could be more or less when it comes to this subfolder here. But those are the big ones that you want to make sure. If you're making, what I like to do, and this is a weird place to put this, but make a master folder. And that's exactly what I've done in mine, is I just make a folder that has all of these, and I type it master, and I just put it in there. And then anytime that I have a new project come in, or I take on a new project under myself, I just use that as a copy and paste, and then I just insert the names of things for the first time. And then as you go forward, it's just easy to use that. But having one master under one ready to go that you can copy and paste and has all these subfolders ready to go. It's such a time save. So that's my $1 million advice for free right there. So you'll see on the printout here and the worksheet we made for everybody, there's an arrow going from the music audio folder, and it goes down. And then in this one, you want to have some specific subfolders underneath this one. And of course, as you're breaking that down, let's break down exactly what's important and to have in these ones.
Hi there, and welcome to the ad break. We're just going to take a moment to let everybody know about our community of growing members, and if you'd like to be a part of that, just look at the info below, and there will be a click there for an email sign-up to join in and get your voice heard. As well, if you're enjoying this content, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/145rural. There you can join any of our groups, and you can add to the discussion of what topics we will choose that will help you and hopefully future members of our groups, as well as join monthly Q&As and other such benefits. Again, that's patreon.com/145rural, and we look forward to seeing you there. Now, back to that regularly scheduled episode, and enjoy that content. Thanks again.
All right, so for the music audio, how we're going to break this down, of course, the first folder is going to be the project name. So for this one, and I'm talking about project in the form of either your albums, or it's an EP, or it's a single. This is where this folder starts. And of course, it's going to have subfolders in itself. If it's an album, it's going to have a list of the songs inside there. Or if it's an EP, it's just going to have 3, 2, 4 or 5 songs right in there. And then if it's single, it's just fine. Just the name of the song goes right on there. And the reason that you want to have this one is just, of course, we want to know where to find the audio files at any given point. It pertains to any song. You know where it's located. The next one over is one that I guarantee you probably don't have unless you work in the audio world, professionally in some manner. But it's super useful, and I want you to consider this if you haven't. Presets. Anytime you're using any sort of plugin, anything that's not a hardware but is a software, there's a way to make a preset of something. And especially if you're working at, in a certain sound, in a certain style of music, and you're using a plugin over and over and over. I like this on my vocals. I'll use it every time. Or my bass gets this great sound if I put this on the bass every single time. Save it as a preset, and then save your time of having to dial in where you like it. It gives you this really just fast, like, boom, okay, so here's my vocals, here's my presets, and then I can dial it in just a tiny touches around that to get that perfect vocal every single time. These presets can save so much time. And not to mention, I can, cross genres. If I know I like it in this genre and I switch to a different one, or working with an artist that I know his voice is going to sound great with this, or her voice would just really be accentuated with this one thing that we like to use. Throw it on there, and then you have a great starting point. And you know that you've tested it with the mic that it's on. Having those repetitive things, and then taking advantage of your knowledge, basically, and then saving time is what it's all about in the end. That you're trying to get the most stuff you can out there, or especially if you're trying to do this professionally, or you have a client that is paying you to do it. The faster you are, the better you are, the more consistent you are. The more you're going to get paid, the more you're going to grow, the more that people are going to seek you out. So this one folder can really make a big difference. The next one I like to keep in there, of course, is whatever project you're working on, or, if you're with a band or a solo idea or artist, have a folder for song ideas. Have a folder where you're putting all of those, little recordings of the guitar part that you worked on and that you just don't know what to do with it yet, or some lyrics you wrote down. That save it here so that later you'll have a place to put it. I know that if you've been doing this for any amount of time on your phone, on a computer, on an iPad, somewhere you have a ton of different things with, song title ideas, concept ideas for songs, lyrics, bits and pieces of harmonies and melodies you've written. They're all over the place. This is where to keep them so you can come back later and reference those, have them ready to pull up. And sometimes when you're like, hey, I'm ready to put out a song, or, hey, I've got 2 or 3 songs, maybe I have enough for an album here or a good EP, you can go in and pick through that. And so I promise you, one of my favorite feelings is going back to one of those and having a list of of songs or parts of songs and listening to them and being like, oh wow, what was I thinking that day? Was I drinking? What was my problem? Or holy crap, did I write that? Why have I not done anything with this? There's always those moments of, wow, that's amazing, or oh my gosh, that is horrible. It's just such a fun journey. So make sure there's one there for song ideas where you can keep that kind of stuff, and it's so useful. So underneath that, you'll see another arrow on that. It's going to go right down into the album, or break down the projects, where we labeled it either the album, the EP, or the single. And this part here is just helping you get those subfolders for that in there. And I guarantee you at least there's probably one in here you're not thinking about that really can help you keep things organized. And that's the very first one under the albums, EP, and singles here. Having an archive for every song is fantastic. And it doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but in the beginning hook for the YouTube part where we were talking about making that joke of where you have that final song, but really final, and then / I swear this is the final, or 0.15, 0.16, 2.0, those different numbers signifying that you've had, 8, 10 different masters of this one song, thinking it's finished every time, but there's just 1 or 2 tweaks you needed. And then there's another copy of that song. Having an archive folder where you can just be like, oh, this isn't the final version, just throw it in there and on to the next one, helps you develop a system for yourself, be it numbering or however you label these things. I suggest, just from, years of experience, using a number system. My number system, if you want to steal it, I guess I've never really shared that with anybody. Go ahead and take it. I start with 1.0, which is clearly the first take. And anything between 1.0 and 1.5 is always my first edits, where I'm doing usually my cleanups. I'm doing my baseline, whatever plugins I'm throwing on there for compression and EQ. I'm doing any timing work. It goes into that. And I know in my head, I've never really written it down, but 1 through 1.5 is that. When I start to get later into the ones, 1.5 through 1.9, I know that we're starting to get a cohesive mix together, and things are starting to get towards that I should have all the final processing done, all that kind of stuff. And that's what makes sense to me. And then I know if I'm sending any clients' work, if I have my own work, if I send you something with that has a song title 2.0, I know that we're getting into the mastering phase, and that I'm starting to get that. And if I usually don't go past 2.3, at that point we're talking about 10 to 15 different edits and reworks. That's probably my limit for. I shouldn't be doing that many. You're working too hard in this, or it should be done by now. You always have different clients, or I've had different songs that doesn't exactly apply, but for the most part, if I get past 2.3, we're talking about billing for extra money, or I'm talking to myself about, hey, you're thinking about this too hard, get it done, get it released. So that's just the number system I use. By all means, please steal it. It works. But using an archive system helps you think about it in that manner, where you're done with this song. Okay, I've got another version. How do I differentiate, name-wise between the two? It's so stupid and so subtle, but having these systems in place, having a structure for your filing system really does help. The next one on there, of course, is the audio files. And of course, straightforward, this is where any of your recordings go. I like to take, if I have song ideas and I've decided to make this into a full song, I'll take that stuff out of the song ideas, and any clips I had, any lyrics, any concept ideas, or if I had any ideas for art, that's another thing that goes under the song ideas. I'll put that all in there, so it's all in one place. Since I'm going to make it a song, let's have it all in one spot. All that goes underneath there. Now, the next one you think would be underneath in the audio files, but it's separate for a reason, and that's the masters. And usually, you have 2 separate versions here. And under masters, I'll have both a file for MP3s and a file for waves. Now, I am not here to talk down to you. So most of you will know this information. I know you're smart, but some of you haven't heard this, and you need to. MP3s are extremely compressed. They're great for sharing, or if you're trying to get ideas across to people and get them quickly, just email them or throw them in a text. MP3s are perfect. That's what they're designed for. If you do anything that's going to be released to the public and listened to either streaming or on a CD or digital, anything that's going to be the official version of this song, you darn well better have a WAV file on that. So that's why we keep them separate, and always just have, a version of both ready to go. Especially if you're sharing it with something that's going to maybe like you have tried to reach out to press, for example, and you're going to, hey, here's an example of my song. If you want to write a story about it, here's an included backstory, what the song's about. Here's the lyrics, and here's an MP3 version, just because it's easier for them to hear it. They don't need a full WAV format version of it, but just an example of why you're going to be using different formats for that. So, and of course, last but not least, we have the lyrics here. I like to keep this one just a little bit separate, of course, and this is a copy paste. Like I did mention, you can put this into whatever the audio file is, put those lyrics in there. I like to have them in both. And the reason is that when it comes to distributing your music, there's always a section where you can include the lyrics with that, and I just like to have them all in one spot and ready to go. So when it comes to like, okay, so this song's uploaded, it's ready to go. I'm entering the information of, who wrote it, who's getting the royalties, what are the splits, whatever. Oh, here's the artwork. And then it asks for the lyrics. Here's a spot for the lyrics. I know right where it's at, where go and grab it. All of my lyrics are in one spot. So that's the most basic breakdown there is. I know it's really stupid and you didn't want to put your brain towards something so meaningless, especially when it comes to music. This isn't the fun part of music. But if you made it this far, listen to this. I mean, bravo. I know it's not the sexy part of music, but you did it. If you have any questions about this, that like I said, the handout's free for now. Go grab it, go use it, and I'd be happy to help with anybody that you have any filing, any problems with filing, or if you need some ideas. The best part about this, of course, again, is if you've done it this way, it also makes it easier for you to do some backups. So the second that you have to go in, I have it on my main computer, but I'm afraid of losing all the work I've done. Oh, I just have to copy this one file, and it has everything I have ready to go. So if you follow the system, it works fantastic. It makes things so simple and easy. But that's it for this week. So I hope that helps out. Give it a try. Any questions, just let us know. We're always here. And of course, just go download that for free. Give us a subscribe and a like and whatever it is that can help us out. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.